We're recording. Okay, so we're gonna finish with the theme song this time, our own. So you're gonna have to stick people. Welcome to Save World, Make Art. I'm Matt Faulkner, and here with me today is the estimable, the unconquerable, the incurable, the incredible Mr. Eugene Clark.
Yay!
The
Hey, first
crowd
of all,
goes
I'm wearing green. It is St. Patrick's Day, and I have my shamrock, and it does say this is an Irish blessing right there. I'm giving an Irish blessing to you and all of our viewers today. An Irish blessing on St. Patty's Day.
No,
From me, Mr. Clark.
oh, Danny boy. Beautiful. Thank you, Eugene Clark.
You're welcome.
Because everybody's Irish on Irish Day.
I don't know anyone on St. Patrick's Day that doesn't claim that they're Irish in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You know, anything to
Is
get
Clark
yourself
Irish?
to the
Clark is
local
Irish.
pub.
Yeah.
Pardon
well,
me?
Clark is Irish, right?
Clark's pretty Irish. There's a lot of Clarks, you know, some with an E, some without the E. Just depends on, you know, which vowels you prefer or don't prefer.
Beautiful. Oh, sorry. Long days.
We got to do something to shake it up and wake this man up today.
I know. I need a beverage, something to drink. Yeah, I found out recently, or not too long ago, that from one of those DNA studies, that I'm like 93% Irish.
Whoa! You beat me on that. I've got a good 75%.
Yeah, awesome.
From both sides of my parental part of my life, and in researching my family tree way back when, I found out that they were both from the same part of Ireland. Their grandparents come from County Mayo, which is over by Galway.
Been there.
Come to find out.
Been to County Mayo. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful.
So that would be a place where you would definitely want to have some mayo on your sandwich.
Well, yes, because that's about as spicy as it gets in Ireland, or at least this Irish American family. When we put spice on food, it was mayonnaise.
That's right.
You can't have a tortilla without your mayonnaise on it. In where I grew up, I don't think we knew what tortillas were. Anyway.
That reminds me of the old Irish saying, let them eat mayo.
Exactly.
Did you like that?
I did. Yeah, and I'm loving the green.
Speaking of County Mayo near Galway, I did spend some time in Galway, and I know you've spent a lot of time in Ireland. So one of my favorite parts of Ireland are, well, there's some islands off the coast of Galway, and one of the islands is called, they're called the Aran Islands.
Mm-hmm.
So Inishmore, I don't know if that rings a bell. Got a chance to visit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those islands where you can, you know, walk the whole thing in a very short period of time, but very scenic. Yes, I actually bought a sweater on that island that I still have and wear and, you know, enjoy. And and I have a couple little pieces of pottery. But and there was a fort that was built right on the cliff there. And so you can go and see the ruins, and very cool place. So I just throw that out there for those of you that might be thinking about Ireland like I am, and needing a place to visualize. So there you go. The Aran Islands.
Beautiful.
Of Ireland.
Can I jump off? Can you entertain people while I jump off camera for a moment here?
Yes, of course.
Sing a song or something, or, you know, do something Irish.
Well, one other little tidbit about Galway is that one of my favorite fish and chips of all time comes from Galway. There's actually a beautiful restaurant in the downtown, and it's called McDonough's, and it says McDonough's world famous fish and chips. They're not lying. You go in there and you're going to be very pleased with the outcome.
Beautiful. Well, one of my favorite places in Ireland. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's good too, to let people know, hey, go do this. It's one thing to say, oh, it's so beautiful, but to have recommendations. One of the things when I first went in, or the second time I went in 1989, was I went to Sligo, or actually three friends and I did a loop from Dublin up through part of Northern Ireland, yes, down the West Coast, and then back over to Dublin to fly home. Crazy trip. Stopped in Sligo, in County Sligo, and we were told, hey, there's this wood carver there whose family used to be butchers, and their butcher shop is now his wood carving studio. And so you're just walking past and like, oh, that's all tile in there. It looks like a butcher shop. No, it's not. It's his wood carving studio. So his name is Michael Quirk. I think he's still alive. And so I went in there, and it was brilliant to be in there. It's this little shop, and it's covered with sawdust and slivers of wood, and pictures all over the wall of all the myths and stuff that he's carving. And so this was in 1989. Here is a little carving that he had been doing.
Yay!
Yeah, of a guy named Emergen, who was a poet warrior in Ireland.
Wow.
And he was a friend to all of the animals. So you can see all these different animals. There's a ram's head, and there's a little fishy down there, and there's the hawk, and there's his sword. So anyway, and then
that's so
signed it on the bottom, MQ, Michael Quirk.
Oh my gosh.
1989. Anyway,
I know that's one of your prized possessions for sure. And thanks for sharing that with me, because I love seeing things like that, especially, artwork from other places. And, nothing better than bringing something home from your travels. I can imagine that weighed down your backpack a little bit.
Absolutely. Also brought home a ram skull that I found on top of a hill. This was back in the days before, we got to look at your bags and yes, microwave everything before you can go anywhere. I thought they were going to stop me then, but yeah, found it. It was dried out. I have it in my studio, and it's the skull of a ram or a ewe. I don't know, but it's got horns. So,
oh my gosh, that reminds me, some of my travels before 9/11 and before everything got so stringent. I was able to bring home a handmade knife from the island of Crete. They were famous for making these little knives, and stuff. You're just reminding me that, wow, travel used to be so much so that you could bring home a ram skull from Ireland or a handmade knife in your bag. I didn't check my bags; they were just up in the thing, but that's how
you were going to stop me with the ram skull, though. The whole time, the guy looked at my bag and he go ahead. So those were the days. Cool.
So is that something that we might be able to get a look at on another episode, a ram skull?
I think that, yeah, well, we're going to probably get to anatomy someday and the things that inspire us that way. So yeah, that'd be a good, someday we'll do that.
Awesome. This week, I understand. I understand you have a great artist that you want to share with us today.
So that we're flipping from sketchbooks and digital and traditional materials last week. Now we're going to go to people who inspired us, our heroes.
Right. Our heroes. And we like to use the word heroes because it's a great word to describe that artist who visually has just overtaken all of what encompasses any of us who are creative, whether it's a film, an animation, music, good theater, the list goes on. But in terms of what we're talking about the visual arts.
Yeah. So can we start with yours, Eugene? Because I have yours queued up first.
Yeah, all right, by all means.
Let me do this. And here we go. This is Coney Island for you first. Let me get it to the right scale. Do that. And then do this. No, that wasn't supposed to happen. Stop that. So who is this artist, Eugene?
So this is an American artist. His first name is Paul. Last name is Cadmus, spelled Cadmus. An American artist who really came into the scene back during World War II, or maybe just after World War II, where there was actually a whole program set up nationally by the government where they would fund artwork made by American artists to keep the artists employed. He was one of those artists that was recognized and given salary to create art pieces. This, I don't think this was one of those pieces, but this piece caught my eye and attention because, like you, Mr. Faulkner, I lived in New York City for a bit. And prior to my move, I knew about Paul Cadmus, and I saw this painting, and the title of it is Coney Island, which is, of course, a quintessential spot in New York City, particularly in the borough of Brooklyn. So you do have to travel outside of Manhattan to get to this place. But I think more often people recognize the name, but not so often would you meet someone who's been to Coney Island unless they actually have lived in New York, because it's a little bit out of the way. But when I saw this painting, it was so intriguing to me. I think, he is primarily a figure artist, and the figure is something that is near and dear to me in my artwork. So he works with imaginative subject matter that's figure related, and he is an egg tempera painter. So this is done all with egg tempera, which is a very fun and interesting old world technique that you don't find very often anymore. And so to think that this was done in egg tempera, and then to think about his ability to define what I think of as caricatures or just the word character, you can see that it's pretty outlandish the way that people are congregating in this place known as Coney Island. Coney Island has an amusement park, but it also has this boardwalk and this very large beach, which typically, just like this painting, is filled with people on any given sunny day in the summer. What I didn't realize is how truthful this painting was until I lived in New York and decided one day I'm going to Coney Island. Got on the train. I lived in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn's huge. So it still took me a long time to get where I live in Williamsburg to Coney Island. And when I was there, one of the things that I remember is that I felt like the characters in this painting, and this painting was probably done in the 50s. But I felt like I saw some of these people. I swear to God, it was as if the painting was coming to life. That's how zany and crazy Coney Island is. And one particular thing that will always stick with me is I literally saw a person that was much larger than life in terms of not only them themselves physically, but also just in terms of the cool character that they were representing as I saw them. And then, they're just wearing their bathing suit. There's this little water fountain. And I swear this person was taking a bath in the water fountain. That's how crazy Coney Island is. If you can picture that, a very large human being trying to bathe themselves and they're literally like, you feel like they're trying to like climb into the thing. So that'll always stick with me. And then there's also a famous circus sideshow at Coney Island. So if you know about people that are sword swallowers, fire eaters, and things like that, that all exists there. And the time that I lived in New York, I was able to go see that show too. So I love this image. I love thinking about Paul Cadmus painting this. And then I loved experiencing it on my visit or when I was living there. So that's painting number one.
All right. Number two.
So this particular piece was done, I'm going to guess, in the 50s as well. I don't have the exact date, but he did a series. The Seven Deadly Sins is what his series was. So this particular piece is envy. And so he's trying to personify each sin in a painting. And so you can see that the central character is golden in color, something, that would represent something that we might envy if you're thinking about the seven deadly sins and what they mean. And then the unique thing about this particular painting is that you can see there's this serpent or snake-like form that has sort of wrapped around the central figure, and the head of this serpent or snake is up above the person's head. And then you can see venom coming out of the snake's mouth. And as it pours out, it wraps around the figure, and it's very transparent. So you can see through to the figure, but you can see the venom almost shrouding this golden, emaciated figure. And only the hand that's closest to us in this picture appears not that way. So it's almost like the way that envy and what envy represents can take over a human being, and what it might look like if we thought about what envy does to us. And that's my interpretation of that painting.
Beautiful. And look at the stuff coming out of the chest.
Oh, yes. All of these, what look like intestines, but yet they might be more snakes.
Yeah.
So, to think about the snake as a connection to what envy might describe or define. Also the venom as it's wrapping around and it lays on the ground, and then you see a trail of it. That feels very snake-like as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. It's like envy. The venom reminds me also of a web in the way it was painted. So you almost think of getting yourself caught in a web of venom because we're overtaken by this envy.
Yeah. It's a way of being, takes over your thinking, and it affects you physically,
Yeah.
And I can see the influence it has on your work.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
I'm so enamored still to this day by this artist. And I would invite anyone to look up Seven Deadly Sins, Paul Cadmus, to look at all the other paintings that are in this series. When you think if they were done in the 40s or 50s, and how I feel like they hold up today in the 2021 in terms of just the look and style, they still have this amazing impact, but they also have like this cutting edge, almost like created before their time in a way, in the style that he worked.
Yeah. Beautiful. And this is egg tempera too?
And this is egg tempera as well.
Oh, look at the thorns he's stepping on.
Wow. Man.
Yeah. And
so there you go.
Yeah. Beautiful. Egg tempera is, I've never painted with egg tempera. It's what I believe is a tremendously difficult medium to master.
Yeah, it would be a medium that if you wanted to tackle something that was like what we call an old world technique. So fresco is another one that you would bring into the conversation. Fresco is not as easy to do at home as egg tempera. You could do egg tempera, fairly simple ingredients. You're just using the egg yolk, not the egg white, and then you're using water and powdered pigment. But the problem is, if you don't have the right consistency, just like in using or in painting fresco on wet plaster, egg tempera, if it doesn't have the right consistency, when it dries, it could just flake right off. And I think that's the challenge that early or young artists might run into when they're first starting with that media. So then, that probably led to people shying away from it.
You have to mix it. You have to buy all your own pigment and mix it with the egg, and right.
Yeah,
It's a real.
That's right. Woo. Yes. So very cool.
Yeah.
But something to give a whirl, you know, if you're one of those people that is such a mind that you think it might be fun to try a new technique.
Yeah. And it's new because it's so old, people don't use it that much anymore. So yeah, you'd be out there on the edge. All right.
All right.
Are you good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me close that up. And we're going to talk about my friend here. Actually, I want to show the other image first. One second. Okay, let's do that and come over to here. So this is an artist named, oops, I want to move you so your name isn't in there. This is an artist named J.C. Liondecker. And he was painting at the end of the 18th century in the 1890s through, I think, like 1930. And maybe even up into World War II. He was essentially the equivalent of like a, what's his name? Who's the guy who did George Lucas of his time? He was
Wow.
he was an illustrator that everybody knew who he was, and in fact, he was a name that most people know. Norman Rockwell's hero. He was he inspired Norman Rockwell. He was the guy who started painting the covers of magazines when magazines were first starting to use color, and so his pigment is very limited here. It's browns and some blues, and it's, to me, a masterful handling of the material. He knows exactly what the pigment will do. He used oils and a lot of what they call stand oil, which is just like a linseed oil, to make the paint really viscous, smooth and flowing. And you can see how liquid the color feels, and his understanding of light source. And so he had gone over to Europe in the 1880s to study the traditional academy instruction of painting. And so he was getting what was left of the academy tradition, you know, studying anatomy, studying the great Grecian and Roman sculptures, trying to understand the human form before you go out and just start painting. He got the old school rules, which he could then throw away if he wanted to. And this was before, you know, the academy started to sort of become deconstructed as, you know, that's the way to learn, which there are good and bads about that too. But so that's what I'm seeing here is a person who he would take picture after picture, use photography as resources, study models. And so that's why I'll show the second image. This is just a study. This isn't the finished art. This is him painting for himself to get a handle on what he wanted to present, which is amazing to me. I imagine, like Norman Rockwell, that when he would do these paintings that were really large, I don't want that to do that. I want this to go here. See if it'll let me do it. No, don't want to do that either. Anyway, so let's just leave this like this. Ta-da. Anyway, so what you can see here this is his study, and he would paint pretty big. Like Norman Rockwell, who used to do paintings that were 4 feet by 6 feet and do like 3 or 4 pencil studies the same size before he'd send it in. This thing is pretty darn big. And he's doing all of these renderings, and the way he, and all of these studies. Look how, like, just in the top there, the way he does the hand over and over again to try to, okay, is that the best way to have the thumb on the flagpole? Is that the best way? That this is the kind of person who loves the detail, the yumminess of it. You know, how he wants to get it exactly right. And so, yeah, and then this is a broader palette. You know, he's got greens and blues and yellows and reds in there. and his understanding of anatomy, the way clothing folds across the figure. This was a person who was, like I said before, trained in the old school method. They would study clothing just the way they had fabric classes. You just learn how to draw and paint the way fabric falls across a figure. That was part of studying the arts.
Yeah.
And so you can see that he has that understanding in this. So that's the guy I wanted to present today, who's a hero for me, J.C. Liondecker.
Well, the very first piece you showed, I swear to God, within like 5 seconds as it was popping up, I was like, Norman Rockwell? Like, it really had that Norman Rockwell feel to it. So that makes total sense, that connection that you gave us. And then, but within a split second, I was like, this is very Matt Faulkner-ish, just in terms of, especially like in the football piece, the way the lower figure's pants look remind me a lot of your work. And then, of course, the way that you deal with backgrounds, where you do those nice bold lines, almost hatching them with your paint. I love that. And so there's a lot of Liondecker coming through in your stuff for sure. But definitely a connection with Norman Rockwell. I love that. So Leyendecker's work is some of, my favorite type of work to look at as an artist, because, that first piece that you showed, what I enjoy about it is that although he may have used photo reference, he didn't try and make his piece look like a photo. So I feel like, just like when you have Norman Rockwell's pieces, where those, usually the faces are the most detailed portions, what I love about the rest of both figures and the background is just how loose everything is, and how there's this interplay with shape and the technique of the materials, allowing that material to breathe, and it feels like a painting to me. I'm not questioning, oh, is that a photo or is that a painting? And I had a teacher that would say, if you're going to do a painting, do a painting. If you're going to do a photo, take a photo. And that sticks with me. And so when I see stuff like this, it's just so refreshing. And for you to tell me that this is in the 1800s, I look at it in disbelief, because again,
this is probably like late 19 teens, early.
Okay. Yeah. But still, I mean, for me, I know that the imagery harkens back to an early time, but I would swear that this was done recent. It has a current edge to it in terms of, and that, I think that goes along with, anything that we feel has a timelessness to it. And then when we go back to the other painting with the studies, it reminds me of looking at some of your character pages or your sketchbooks, where you just have pages and pages of studies for a particular character in the same manner that we see here, but this is done on a larger scale. And then something that really catches my attention is that one head up in the corner that's different than everything else.
Right.
And you just wonder, what was that about? How did that work its way into there? Just so cool to see that. And is that painted or is that drawn?
I don't know. It looks like it's maybe a small brush with paint. But I was thinking about that too. Like, this guy, what it says to me is this guy loves painting and studying the figure so much, right? That maybe he was just sitting there in between having a cup of coffee, talking to somebody in his studio, and he's like, "Oh, turn your head like that again. Let me draw that."
Yes, and then, oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's just like it. Also, he had come to a place in his development where he's just constantly doing it. He's constantly thinking and seeing. So he's got to put it down on some surface. I'm going to draw that. And who knows? Maybe he was thinking too, like, okay, I'm going to need that pose for something else later on. So I'll just draw it here so I can remember it. Like whatever it is. Yeah. This is a guy crazy for drawing.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a famous drawing. So there's not a lot of Michelangelo drawings in existence, but there is one, and it's one of the main figures in the Sistine Chapel ceiling, a female figure, and it's the back,
right? The Sibyl
of the person
with her back, and she's holding up both arms.
So when you see the drawing of that, you
yes.
see his attempt also of just drawing the big toe over and over and elsewhere in that drawing. And it reminds me of what we're seeing here with the thumb, where the artist is dissatisfied. Therefore, the artist is going to do another attempt and another attempt, like, I'm going to get you, thumb, or Michelangelo, I'm going to get you, big toe. And the cool thing in that Michelangelo drawing is that I think there's the foot, then there's like the big toe with maybe a couple other toes, and then there's just the big toe by itself, almost like he was weeding down to the issue, like, it's the big toe.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And that, that's where a lot of people get their desire to, or where those guys like Rockwell would do a lot of studies like this too. This is a kind of a crappy version of this, but let me just share this. Do it. Ta-da.
Yay, that's the one we're talking about.
Yeah. So there's the study, and now you're going to see the toes.
Yay, there they are, the toes. Right? And there's the hand and the close-up of the face that you see, with the back view, but then he just does it close. And then there's that foot, and then there's the toe drawings. And it's like, wow, the shoulder, like all of that stuff. When you think, this was done, I think Michelangelo was alive in the 1500s. I could be wrong about that. But I'm just going to go with it. And so when you think about how many years later in the 1800s, Leyendecker, following in those footsteps, so to speak, of the approach, yes. where you're really, like you said, you're taking your piece and you're breaking it down, and you're honing in on trouble areas. And no matter how good you are, there are trouble areas, and you've got to figure them out.
Well, I tell you what, someday I'll grab a sketchbook. I have my own my study of this study from when I was like 18 years old.
What?
Yeah, because this was my drawing. This was the thing. I was like, I want to draw like this guy when I was in college. God. And everybody else wanted to. But, another thing about this too is that back then they could not have female nude models. So all of it, whether it was a male or a female he was going to put in the painting, they were all male models and he would adapt them.
Oh,
so that's why a lot of the women look so kind of beefy, because they were all men.
Yes. And that reminds me of, if you think about Shakespeare plays, all the female roles were played by male actors.
Exactly. Around the same, it's all around the same time too. Yeah. I think Michelangelo was like 14 in the late 1400s. So, and early 1500s. So same thing.
Yes.
All right.
This is so good. Thanks for finding that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone way over our time, Eugene, but listen, can you tell everybody a little bit about the course we're going to teach starting this Saturday? I mean, day after tomorrow, Friday. We still have openings too. What do you want?
Yes. So the course is called Character or Creature Creation, taught by Mr. Matt Faulkner and assisted by yours truly. And the two of us are really going to hone in on character development for the individuals that sign up for this program. It's 4 days. So the first 2 days are back to back, then you get about 5 days off, and then we do 2 more days back to back. There will be some on Zoom, we will do some hands-on demos with you guys, and then we'll give you some homework. You got to work on a project and then show it to us the next time we meet. And then the same thing happens next week. So you get to not only learn some new techniques and ways to develop your character, but you also get to hear some feedback from Mr. Faulkner and myself.
Yeah. And earlier on, you said it was taught by Matt and assisted by Eugene. I thought it was taught by Eugene, assisted by Matt. So goodness, I don't know what's going to happen. So,
it's tag team.
we'll put the
either way. It's going to be an Irish blessing.
Absolutely. Aaron Grow Broad, baby. All right, so we'll put that in the blurb. You can contact us through the link and get into the course. It's going to be good. You're going to love this.
It's going to be great.
All right, let's take ourselves out here with
where everybody knows your name.
Oh, wait. Let's start from the beginning. Wait.
Oh, sure.
Something. Sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to? How's it go, Eugene?
Oh my gosh, I wish I knew the words.
Yeah.
La 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 la. Da, 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 da.
Where everyone's to go.
Where and Eugene. Ba-dum-dum. We're gonna teach a little workshop this weekend. Bum, bum, bum. You can sign up, there's still a chance. You can learn how to make a character or a creature if you'd rather do that too. It's my invisible microphone.
Yeah, okay. One more time. Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got.
That's right.
Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot.
It sure would.
Wouldn't you like to get away
and sign up for a Zoom class?
Sometimes you want to go to Eugene Matt's creative creature character creation class. Where Matt and Eugene know your name.
And we'll know your name, and then you can contact us anytime afterwards. It's really worth the little bit of money that you would spend to get to know us.
And we're always glad you came.
Da, 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 da. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Happy St. Patty's Day. Live
long, prosper. Amen. Adios, Eugene. I'll see you further down the road.
All right. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.